There is a brand new show being done at the Abington that is getting a lot of buzz. It's called Queen's Girl in the World, and we are with its star, Felicia Curry. Felicia, can you tell me a little bit about this show? Because in researching it, it had different titles.
Yes, well, what you saw was actually the fact that this is part of a trilogy of plays. So there's Queen's Girl in the World, which is part one, Queen's Girl in Africa, part two, and Queen's Girl Black in the Green Mountains, part three.
What I saw.
And what's great about this is I actually had the pleasure of doing the world premiere of Queen's Girl Black in the Green Mountains. So this is really special to me to be able to step back into Jacqueline Marie Butler's shoes in the first part of her really amazing story.
What is this story about?
So part one is
Yeah.
about a little girl coming of age in the middle of civil rights. She's growing up in Queens, but she's sent to an all Jewish school in Greenwich Village, and it's sort of her struggling with who she is in both of these worlds, how to merge those two worlds. We're in the middle of late 60s, early 70s. Her family has a connection to the movement. So how to deal with that. Her father is big in the movement, how to deal with that. What's great about this show is that although it is the story of a young Black woman growing up in this time, it's really about coming of age, especially in the middle of hard times, which I think everybody right now can relate to.
Absolutely. I have an ignorant question to ask.
No questions are ignorant.
Well, no, trust me, this
You're
will.
asking it, so that's good.
Yes, I ask controversial questions and then people get mad at
I
me.
love it. Nah.
I grew up in LA.
Okay.
So I'm not exactly sure how African Americans dealt with it in every state. I know in the South it was godforsaken.
Right.
What was it like in Queens?
You know, I've talked a little bit with the playwright herself, Colleen Sinnette Jennings. It was, I don't want to speak directly to it, but the struggles were similar. The struggles
As
were
the
similar,
South?
being a young Black woman in 1960s, late 1960s, early 1970s, different. But the struggle was real. And again, I bring up what's happening today because a lot of that is still in the mix. Just the fact that feeling like other and being othered in that sense.
The reason I ask this question is because in LA,
Mhm.
I grew up in this time
Mm.
with the Watts riots,
Mhm.
but I was taking tap in the center of it, in the center of it. So where I grew up, there was none of this. You know, everybody
Mm.
was a people, not a color.
Mm.
So it boggles. I mean, I know the history and I know it all, but it sort of boggles my mind. Like, did it take place everywhere? What was this?
What is interesting about this story is Jackie sort of touches on that in the show. I mean, we touch on the killing of the four little girls in Birmingham.
Mm.
Obviously, Jackie not there, but reading it in the paper and the effect it has on her as a
Oh,
young Black
had to be
woman
horrifying.
going to an all-white school.
Mm.
So we touch on that. We touch on, I mean, I don't want to give away the whole show, but this is time period. We touch on Malcolm's death. We touch on Martin speaking. So, and Jackie talks about how it's different up here and what's going on in the South, but still wanting to be part of the movement, still wanting to be part of the change.
Mhm.
And again, feeling it because she lives in this neighborhood in Queens and goes to school in a place where she is very othered,
Okay.
you know.
I I would love to have the shared experience of most people. The problem is I don't. Um,
Well, and that's the beauty of theater, right? That we get the
absolutely.
opportunity to sit in the seats and walk for a moment, be on the journey of someone else's story, which is really special.
Well, my friends all laugh at me because I just don't think like everybody else. And they're like, "Oh, you're not going to get this because you just weren't like that." And I'm like, "Okay, I'm trying to have this shared thing, but okay," because I just see people people a lot for people to tell me, oh, they're a different nationality, they're a different race.
Yeah.
I see auras. And I know that sounds crazy, but I see aura. So to me, people are not black, white, they're like pink, purple, green, yellow. So it's
Totally
hard for
understand.
me to see this, but I want to because I'm trying
Mhm.
to understand. I mean, I read a lot as a kid,
Mm.
but it's like trying to put me in the shared experience is like, yeah, not working.
Well, and again, I just say that's why it's one of the reasons I am so devoted to the art of theater, because I believe it gives us a chance to have that shared
Oh,
experience. It
absolutely.
gives you a chance to see what it's like for a Jacqueline Marie Butler to walk around in the world in late 60s, 70s in Queens, New York. It gives someone like me a chance to, I can bring up many other shows, but I'll bring up like Native Gardens, which is a Karen Zacharias play. I mean,
Right.
it gives us an opportunity to see these communities that we're not part of, but we get to learn. We get to have a view into what it is.
We get to live in them for like
Yeah.
2 hours.
And then
Yeah,
walk away and then think about it and talk about it,
absolutely. And
which is
I'm
so
a firm
amazing.
believer in the talk about it.
Got to, as am I, as am
Yeah,
I. Because it's, books are great. And I think reading a book is wonderful, but there's something about experiencing something
absolutely.
that is different.
What are the other two plays like?
So what's great about Jackie is that this is her journey. So at the in the second play, her family, I'm giving away the whole play, but her
I'm so
family
sorry.
moves to Africa after Malcolm's death. Her father
Oh,
moves
wow.
her family to Nigeria. And so the second play is her like high school years in Nigeria. And
Wow.
then the third play, she goes to Bennington College, which is an all white women's college. And so the third play is all about her 4 years at Bennington.
Ah, okay. That makes sense now. I love trilogies. I
Me
love
too.
when we get taken in journeys and then more journey. I
Right. And
like
you get to
knowing the
hear
whole
this
story.
incredible story and just what she went through, what she experienced. And what Colleen has done so well in this play is it really is quite universal.
I do think this
despite
is all
despite it being a
universal.
very singular story. I had so many people at the end of Green Mountains come up and talk to me just about their college experience, about their experience during that time period, and how that a lot of what Jackie was going through resonated for them.
You know, uh, Magda, who's videoing us right
Mhm.
now, she has the immigrant experience.
Mm.
You know, I have the California to New York experience, and believe me, what a difference.
Yeah, I bet.
um, we all have these different experiences that if we shared them and if we were allowed to, instead of putting people in frickin' boxes, I'm
Yeah.
not a box fan at all. Mainly because I'm like round in every way. So I think I belong in a circle.
Yes,
Um,
I like that.
I do. It's like when you get your nails done, square or round. No,
Yeah,
round. What do I
round.
look like? A
Always
square?
round.
Um, but there's some people that do, fit in squares, and I don't.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't think most people do actually.
Mm.
So I want these conversations. I want
Yeah.
to not be afraid to ask the questions
And
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 afraid of
really and to understand the shared humanity.
right. Because
Because I want to mention again, this play is about coming of age. So she starts to play at around 12 and she goes to about 15, 16. And there is a lot of shared experience in what it means to go from 12 to 15 or 12 to 16 as a young woman.
yeah, I haven't scheduled myself
So
for this play, and I'm going to make sure that I do.
please do, please do.
No,
Because
I
again,
will.
this is, I
I
believe it's
didn't
going to
schedule it
speak
just because I'm
to,
busy,
I think it's
but
going to speak to a lot of people about the awkwardness of growing up in general for all of us. I'm even starting to encourage some younger folks to come to this play because it's specifically about that. And because these young people
yeah,
right now are struggling in a different way than
absolutely.
some of us are, but in a way that seems almost in line or parallel to what Jackie and her friends experienced in the late 60s, early 70s.
I'm curious to see the African play because
Yeah.
I take it Jackie was born here or not born here?
She was born here. Yeah, she was born in the
Okay,
States.
so
Yeah,
you're taking someone who's born here and saying, hey, go live in
right,
Africa.
right,
That's got to be a trip and a half.
right. In the early 70s. Yeah. I mean,
Yes.
and after what they were experiencing here in the States, and then to go over there. Yeah.
Right. So I'm
Jackie's story
curious
is
to
pretty
see
incredible.
what the prejudice is there, because I'm
Mm,
sure that there was some. In a different way, you know, for
yeah,
some
yeah.
reason we love to be prejudiced. Um, Even though I think in a strange way, it's the media.
Mm,
It is certain groups that make us become this.
mm.
I don't think
It is.
that we
It's certain
necessarily
it's
are.
certain people feeling like they need to have power, and
Exactly. What kind of power is
I
that?
have to keep you down in order to stay in power.
Well, more importantly, like right now, I have to keep you segregated into
Mm,
your own little
hmm.
boxes.
Yeah.
I think sadly, we're more segregated now than we've ever been. And I think that's obnoxious.
Which
I
is again why a story like this, sadly, is so timely.
Now let's talk about you. What else have you
Sure.
done?
I actually live in the Washington D.C. community, so I do a lot of theater in that area. I just finished doing right before I came here. I did Skin of Our Teeth at Everyman Theater
Oh,
in Baltimore, which you know is about to come here
yeah,
to
I
New
was gonna
York.
say, why aren't you doing that
I
version?
know. And before that, I did a play about Marian Anderson at Ford's
Oh,
Theater, a
oh,
relationship between Marian Anderson and Einstein. Very interesting
nice.
story. And right before that, I did a play about Nina Simone. So
Oh, the one that's playing
I'm
here?
clearly on. I not the one that's playing here. It's a different play. Um, but I seem to be on this path of playing real people.
Isn't that wonderful though?
It is wonderful and also
That's,
terrifying.
you've
You know,
got this
there's
history. Yeah, but you've got this history to draw on
yeah,
and like sink your little teeth into.
yeah, and they certainly have such all of them. I'm including Jackie in that. They all have such incredible stories. And what got them to where they were and what they had to overcome to make it happen. I've been really blessed to be able to do a lot of amazing things and work with a lot of amazing people.
What kind of roles or shows would you like to take on that you haven't had the chance to?
Ooh, well, something. Well, now that you mention it, Queen's Girl in Africa. My hope is to one day do all three of the trilogy.
Oh, that's
Um,
cool.
um, I love Caroline or Change.
Mm.
That be a show that at some point in the future. I'm also a musical theater baby. I have a big musical theater background as well. And what I love about Caroline is the beautiful mix of play and musical and how it's married together in that. And I'd love to be able to have the opportunity to take that on at some point.
Is there, do you also do film and TV?
A little bit, not a lot of TV and only a little bit of small independent films, but interested in that too. Anybody who's out there, hey.
No, I'm actually surprised because you're beautiful.
Oh,
I mean,
thank you.
no, I mean it. You're very photogenic. You
Oh,
seem
thank
to
you.
have the it factor. I mean, until
Oh,
you see
thank
somebody
you.
on stage, you don't know, but and it is something that is needed, whether people believe it or not.
Mhm.
Um, I'd like to see you do film or TV,
You.
actually.
So would I. It's something that you know, when you do a lot of theater, it becomes difficult to fit in little things. And
Absolutely.
I will say DC has been so good to me that I've worked a lot. So I haven't had a ton of time to
Well,
do
that's good though.
TV and film, which is amazing. But again, certainly open to it if anybody's calling.
No, I used to do theater and especially musical theater.
Did
And
you?
I did.
Yay.
And people were always like, "Do you want to do film or TV?" And I'm like, "No."
I know. There is something, we experienced this hybrid during the pandemic
Mhm.
of theater and film and what is it?
Do.
I did a lot of filmed theater pieces over the pandemic. Um and it's different.
That's a
The,
two
the,
way.
you
That's a
know, it's
two-way
just
street though.
theater is a different medium, and this in between medium, this filming theater is also a different medium
And
than film itself.
acting for each medium
Ooh, yeah.
is a different strength.
It's completely different.
Yeah,
So
people
I'm
think it's the same,
grateful
it's
for
not.
that sort of that little new skill that I got over the pandemic. I'm grateful that I was able to participate in things that were getting out to the public in a time where we couldn't be together. Um,
I look forward to seeing those because as much as I thought that was a great idea,
mm,
I found that people, and actually in seeing some of the shows I'm seeing now, people are settling for mediocrity.
mm,
And I'm not exactly a mediocre girl.
no,
Um,
neither am I.
I want perfection. Even when I was doing um, a theater and film and TV,
Mhm,
um, if I didn't feel it was perfect, I didn't care.
mm.
People could tell me, "Oh, you were so great," and I'm like, "No."
Yes, I feel the same way.
So even
But I
now,
and I feel like we have a responsibility. I mean, especially now after the pandemic, I take this responsibility as a theater artist. I did before, but again, even more so now. I take it very seriously because of what we talked about at the beginning of this, because what we do is allow people a lens into human existence,
absolutely,
into humanity. So I take that seriously. I am trying to show full, rounded people who are flawed, who are imperfect, and yet perfect all at the same time. Um, yeah, and I just take that very
you
seriously
are definitely my kind of actress.
because people walk away and they hopefully are having conversations about this and taking it in. And so I want to give them the realest experience that I can, as much of me, as much of the character as I possibly can.
When is a Queen's Girl of the World playing in the
We start previews April 9th
Mhm.
and run right now through May 1st. People start coming. Maybe we run a little bit longer. We're at Theater 5 in Theater Row.